GCC revolution in India, where many companies started to set up their extended arm in India. I moved into Micron, where I took an active part of their India center setup.
Define a CIO's role today in shaping the business strategy, the business part of any organization?
Every one of us are going behind the new AI now, and we must, because if you wanted to have an early mover advantage, you must adopt to the new technologies. At the same time, technology for the sake of technology or AI for the sake of AI will only be an expense, right? It has to be for the business value. Am I using AI solution for, again, driving more revenue, more manufacturing yield? So those imperatives, as long as it is helping, be it AI or any disruptive technology, will make a lot of sense. So that is my spin of how business imperatives are more important than technology alone.
Hi everyone, you're watching The Mainstream. I am Simran Shiwalkar, your host for today. Today I'm particularly thrilled to have this dialogue with yet another visionary leader in the tech space, Miss Radhika Chennakeshavula. She is the Chief Information Officer at Silicon Labs. Firstly, Radhika, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the series.
Thank you so much, Simran. Honored to be here.
Absolutely. And that being said, let me take a moment to share a few things about Radhika. To begin with, she is a seasoned technology and business leader with a strong background and a strong track record of enabling digital transformation at scale. As a Chief Information Officer at Silicon Labs, she focuses on building resilient, people-centric technology foundation that support innovation, growth, and operational excellence as well. Known for her thoughtful approach, leadership style, she brings a balanced perspective on how IT can move beyond enablement to become a true strategic partner to the business. Well, I am more than thrilled to know more about her journey, to get some pretty good insights and also listen to her perspective. So without any further ado, let's begin. Radhika, firstly, your journey as a CIO and then leadership spans both tech as well as business transformation. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? What experiences have shaped your approach, and how has it been so far?
Sure. Thank you, Simran. As I said, thank you for having me here, and definitely honored to share my experience. If it helped, even if a single person to pick something and then make sense and have some common ground and learn, that would be fantastic. I would call it mission accomplished. To quickly share a little bit of my journey, Simran, I come from one of the rural backgrounds in Telangana. I come from farming and agriculture family background, and I'm definitely one of the first graduates to come to a tech industry and make my career out of it. So I'm ever thankful for the whole tech revolution that took place in India, and then I'm one of those early advantage gainers in the industry. I started my technical career as a developer. So I used to be a programmer in C, C++ and Java related technologies. So first half of my career, I've spent time as a core developer. So the tech in me is constantly alive and wanting to code if and when there is an opportunity. After that, my leadership career and pretty much my good amount of early leadership to about 16 years of my leadership career, I've spent with GE. GE shaped me what I am as a leader by putting me into different functional areas, right? I started in leading in infrastructure, then I moved on to data analytics and then into some M&As and then some finance IT and so on and so forth. So that gave me a breadth of experience to lay a foundation for me as a CIO, right? Because as a CIO, you need to be able to connect the dots and touch different blocks of technology to come up with strategy and an execution. And those early blocks of moving me into different functions actually laid a solid foundation for me. After that, definitely taking advantage of GCC revolution in India, where many companies started to set up their extended arm in India. I moved into Micron, where I took an active part of their India center setup, pretty much greenfield from ground up to when I left Micron in 3 years, stood up the IT team of 1,200 members across almost all the functions of enterprise applications, infrastructure, security, and manufacturing, and so on. Then I took a global role, which is with Western Digital, which gave me another spin onto my CIO journey, which is largely leading their infrastructure globally. And Western Digital, as many of the viewers know, is a pretty broad infrastructure setup with about smaller, large 10 plus data centers and about 90 sites globally of different sizes and shapes, and the complexity of manufacturing and R&D labs. So running the whole infrastructure for such a complex environment and running 24/7 across the globe shaped me what I am from the overall preparation for the CIO role. And when Silicon Labs opportunity came for me 1.5 years ago, and they decided to transition their IT into India, I thought it to be a very bold move of moving a CIO role, which is definitely very close to the board, to
Right.
India, and running this role based out of India is definitely a bold move. And I wanted to do my best in this role so that other companies can take this model and then make the best use of it, especially for the industry that I am in, semiconductor. Most of their manufacturing is already in Asia and this part of the world. And they have most of these companies, semiconductor companies, has got a presence of their R&D centers in India, be it Hyderabad or Bangalore. Then
Right.
it does make sense to run daily IT operations based out of India, while board reporting is once in a quarter. So
Right.
that's how it's working to me today. So that has been my journey where several experiences shaped me what I am today, Simran.
Superb. And thank you so much for sharing this dynamic journey with us today, Radhika. Next, I want to know from you, the role of CIO has evolved a lot in the recent years. We have been hearing that a CIO today wears multiple hats. From your standpoint, how do you define a CIO's role today in shaping the business strategy, the business part of any organization, as well as managing the technology side as well?
Simran, certainly it is evolving, and it is going to be continue to evolve in the very near future, right? Whatever the evolution took place until recent time versus how it's going to be changing the shape in the next very few years is going to be very fast paced. Initially, I remember, Simran, when I started IT leadership roles, most of the time I used to talk about technology, right? Most of the CIO or any of the IT leader job was to talk about technology. Technology was a fashion, right? That's how we saw it. And some of my peers who were constantly talking about technology, I would say that at some point in time, they had to stay back and live where they are. And some of us who picked functional and the business acumen along with technology and gave a more weightage to the functional aspects and the business priorities, I think we took a bigger leap. Having said that, any company, Simran, if you look at it, the core imperatives or core objectives are same. Company want to drive more revenue, get more market wins, and want to reduce the cost, and want to be profitable or give more shareholder value, and then be compliant, right? So these are the standard pillars or imperatives for any industry, right? Be it a consulting services or a manufacturing or a semicon or a FMCG, right? No matter what industry that you are in, these imperatives are the same, right? Company wants to make more revenue, be profitable, be compliant as per the regulations. When those are the imperatives, until and unless you are an IT product selling companies like ours, IT is an enabler, right? We cannot run behind technology as a fashion if you're working for a product company where our core product is not IT. We don't sell IT, right? We sell chips, which are semiconductor chips. So when we are selling our chips as a product, IT becomes such a solid enabler. So anything that we do, any spend that we do, any systems we develop, as long as it is helping accelerate these imperatives that I called, which is improving revenue, improving manufacturing yield, improving profitability, reducing cost, and be compliant, that is the good project, right? So that's the transformation of how I started to wear a different lens of more inclined towards the business value and not as much on technology alone, right? Now, this revolution, to your question about how this transformation is going to be moving forward, as I said, in the near future, it's going to be much accelerated pace. For example, with AI coming in now, every one of us are going behind the new AI now. And we must, because if you wanted to have an early mover advantage, you must adopt to the new technologies. At the same time, technology for the sake of technology or AI for the sake of AI will only be an expense, right? It has to be for the business value. Am I
Right.
using AI solution for, again, driving more revenue, more manufacturing yield. So those imperatives, as long as it is helping, be it AI or any disruptive technology, will make a lot of sense. So that is my spin of how business imperatives are more important than technology alone.
Leading on to that, from what you have just explained about how CIOs are now playing the dual role of, bringing the business imperative as well as, looking over the technology side of any organization. We talk about priorities today. We talk about a lot of innovations coming into the picture. What are the top priorities for a CIO or any CIO should focus on to keep teams well aligned, to be future ready, considering all aspects of technology as well as cyber landscape as well? What is your take on this?
Simran, you actually touched upon pretty much the right priorities for the CIO. I may reiterate it, right? You actually said it very well. I mean, for the listeners, if any of you have read the book CIO Paradox, it's a great book. If you have not read it, please read. The fact that you're interested in CIO journey, that book is so perfect book, which is called CIO Paradox. So one of the paradox that author talks about is how CIOs needs to navigate this fine balance of archivist versus futurist, right? There is no perfect world of entire company being on a most modern technology. That situation will never come, right? Because your existing systems still are running the existing business. Even if you're adopting, adding a fresh layer of AI or any of the new technology, it is going to be the balance, right? Nobody is going to fund you 100% of increase on your IT spend to get rid of the entire legacy, right? That won't happen. So the archivist part, living in the legacy, will continue forever. And then you need to do a fine balance of the future technologies. So this futurist and archivist phenomena will continue. So your priorities, the traditional IT priorities of balancing your legacy and ensuring that that is running the existing business, will continue to be there. And as long as you have this archivist or a legacy, some companies call it heritage, as long as you have it, you need to continue to pay attention on the cyber, which you rightly called out. And cyber becomes equally important even on the futurist phenomena, right? As you're adding more technologies, you're opening up more doors, right? Example, AI. Now, most of the AI solutions come with something called an MCP, right? MCP is a protocol for model context, and that starts to put pipes into your existing data sets, right? And then with the cloud coming in, now you're moving your data even out of your data centers, right? So physically also the data is outside your premises.
Absolutely.
Then, so even in this context of the futurist as well, your cybersecurity plays an important role, right? In both the cases, you are running on a very thin fabric of providing more security or coming up with a more security demands, right? And I've learned this during my stint with Western Digital, when the company went through a whole ransomware attack. This is a public information, so I don't mind sharing it. So when the whole company went through a ransomware attack, that's when I realized the ongoing saying that, or ongoing reminder that CISOs continuously remind CIOs about, hey, a ransomware attack or a security attack is a matter of when. It's never a question of if, right? What they're saying is every company is exposed, right? It's a matter of somebody deciding to pick you today and then if versus tomorrow,
Absolutely.
right? So continuous preparation of protecting, safeguarding, right? All of that is an ongoing demand. So if I have to list down, Simran, balancing the legacy will be an ongoing priority. Second priority would be, how do I adopt to the newer technologies, be it AI or any other newer technologies, right? And how much I wanted to spend there, right? Because again, it needs to be a good balance of business value. And the third one, to your call out about the security. So these three will continue to be the top priorities for easily until 2030.
Radhika, firstly, thank you so much for that lovely recommendation. I am sure a lot of our audiences will be checking out the book if they haven't already, and I, for one, as well. And thank you so much for highlighting these priorities as well. Which brings me to my next question. Today, we are all hearing about AI, Gen AI, agentic AI. Automation has also become a part of everyday work for every person who is into tech. How do you approach innovation in a way that delivers value but also keeps people at the center of it as a leader?
Right. Simran, as I mentioned earlier, whether it is innovation or a technology, for the sake of innovation, I usually don't follow. right? That's because I'm not a scientist. I'm an IT leader, right? If I were a scientist doing a PhD or doing innovation for the sake of innovation would have become my part of day job. So my advice for CIOs or probably IT leaders who are listening to this is whether it is innovation or a modern technology should still make sense from the business value. If it is making sense from the business value, just go for it all in, right? Now, coming to the people dimension of it, Simran, in my 27 years of experience, what I realized, and that is even more important with the current transformation of AI, is when it comes to AI, it is a revolution. It's not a project, right? It's not one of those ERP projects or a CRM projects where, sure, you get it done and then your system is ready and then you move on. It's not that, right? AI is going to be a slightly more long-term journey. It is a revolution. So revolutions take time. And when it comes to revolution, it is not a one-time thing. It is change. It is a much bigger change. And adoption of this change is less about technology. It's more about people, right? People play such a critical, integral role in accepting the revolution, right? If you look back, whether it is a wheel, adopting to a wheel, right, or adopting to a new machinery in industrial revolution, or now the AI, the whole adoption, the pace of adoption, whether it is faster or slower, totally determined by the people who are going through this experience. So people play a major role in this adoption.
Very well said, Radhika. And thank you so much, for briefly explaining your standpoint on this. But before we wrap up, looking ahead, what excites you the most about the future of IT, the future of leadership, and what best practices would you share with some of the up and coming or the next generation of CIOs navigating this whole change? What is your, take on it, and how would you suggest to explore the area of tech and cybersecurity?
Sure. Simran, first of all, the excitement that I have is the major revolution in tech space was when internet came, right? After that, everything is largely incremental on top of internet, right? Be it a CRM, ERP, and everything else is on top of internet.
Right.
And when the internet came, I was not here to shape the technology strategy, right? However, the next big one now is AI. And when this is here, I am here where I can shape the strategy of technology companies. So the excitement that I have is to be part of this transformation. Isn't it scary? I would be lying if I say yes. It is scary, Simran. Right? It scares me every day. I'm like, am I prepared enough? Am I doing enough? Because I don't want to go through the same situation of somebody else shaping the technology landscape and then me being an adopter. Because that was the case when internet came in and all of these ERPs, etc., that we adopted is somebody else defined and then we have adopted it. But then now we are in the midst of all of this, right? And we can shape it. So that's the excitement that I have. And when it comes to the advice that I have for the CIOs or the data or the IT leaders, Simran, is CIO job is going to be changing. It is already changing from chief information officer, where you're a mediator for handling the information. That is how it was seen as a chief information officer to a chief intelligent orchestrator, right? What I meant is when you say chief intelligent orchestrator would orchestrate the data, right? So we would become the orchestrators of preparing this whole data systems and information for actually preparing for the AI journey in front of us. If anybody is thinking that, oh, is AI really a thing? Is it going to be really changing the shape of how the industry is? Answer is absolutely. It's here and now. It is about making the right use of it, making it into a shape that makes sense for each of the company, because each company, the way we adopt AI is going to be different, right? How a bottling company sees it versus how a manufacturing company sees it is different. But then it will disrupt the way we run the operation. Now, if you have to adopt to it, how do I orchestrate my data systems? It's like people process technology. That's a language that I understand better. How do I prepare my people to adopt this? How do I prepare my processes and data to adopt this? How do I adopt technology to prepare for AI? Right? So I want the CIOs or tech leaders to remember this new term that your job is going to be chief information or chief intelligent orchestrator, right? Be prepared for that exciting ride.
That's actually a very exciting outlook, I would suggest. I would say, Radhika, because definitely with so much of, evolution happening around technology, with so many responsibilities being added to the role of a CIO, the title would rather shift to Chief Intelligence Orchestrator, like you rightly said. And thank you so much once again for for, being so candid and offering your unique perspectives in today's dialogue. While we wrap up, I most certainly look forward to connect with you again for more such incredible insights.
Certainly, Simran. Thank you so much for having me here. I hope somebody will take benefit of this interview and wish all the listeners good luck.